Hey, Phil Long family, Dr. Scott Uhald here, and I'd like to welcome you to the December edition of the Wealth of Health newsletter. With Christmas coming around, lots of additional stresses going on in life, and staying on top of the daily things that you have to do, sometimes we may neglect ourselves, especially with breakfast. So I want to spend some time in this newsletter and share with you foods that may be advertised as being healthy, but they're not really all that healthy, and if we eat them, it can be problematic. So with that, let's get started. I've got a bunch of breakfast options that I'd like to start out sharing with you, and it's really important to read a food label. I've attached a link to a pretty well outlined nutrition label that explains in detail everything that we're going to be talking about today. So take a minute and look at that if you would. But starting out, a lot of times people for breakfast, they don't really eat breakfast, they drink coffee. And I'd like to say that coffee is really not a very good breakfast item, and the reason being is not only do we drink coffee, coffee is a big stimulant, it shrinks your stomach, it makes you feel not hungry, and if you haven't eaten since 6 o'clock the night before and you skip breakfast and just drink coffee, you're really not doing your body very good from a nutritional standpoint. And then we add non-dairy creamer. It's non-dairy, so that means there's no milk in it. It's a creamer. This happens to be low fat as well as low sugar. So if you look on the ingredients list that you can't see, but it's about that long, they've got a lot of scientific names in this stuff. And all this extra stuff that's in foods, and I'm going to give you a bunch of examples, that actually is what we call a processed food. And processed foods really increase your likelihood for visceral body fat. That's body fat that's inside your muscles. It's around your organs, and in America, we have an epidemic with visceral body fat. That increases your likelihood of developing a number of cardiovascular diseases, including heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and so on. So if you can limit processed foods, and I'm going to hit on that pretty hard today, that would definitely be to your advantage. All right, and although I just talked about non-dairy creamer, I'd like to offer a much more pliable suggestion, and that's coconut milk. Coconut milk is a medium chain triglyceride, and that type of fat is very helpful for actually breaking up visceral body fat. So switching out non-dairy creamer for coconut milk, if you're a coffee drinker, would really probably be in your best interest. Now, another breakfast food that's quick and easy, but not all created equal, is cereal. And all in all, I'm really not a big fan of cereal, especially the things like Count Chocula, Frosted Flakes, and all that kind of stuff. But one that is pretty good, here's a shredded wheat. And it's by itself, and you can look at the food labels, it's 210 calories per serving. But you get 1 1/3 cups in a serving here, and this is shredded wheat with sugar added to it. It's also 210 calories, but the serving size is 1/3 less than what this is. Why is that? Because you have a lot of sugar in this, and you don't have any sugar here. So this may taste a little bit better to the palate, but I would recommend maybe a shredded wheat or a Total or one of those. Don't get a breakfast cereal that's got lots of sugar. In fact, many times when you go down the cereal line, there's so much sugar in that product you can actually smell it in the aisle. So stay away from sugary breakfast meals, and that also includes oatmeal, especially instant oatmeal. Instant oatmeal comes from oats and so forth, but again, it's very processed, and your body is very efficient at converting that to fat and storing it, especially if you haven't eaten in a long time. So instant oatmeal, I would kind of characterize it just along with the very sugary cereals. I would not eat it. You have regular oatmeal right here that you can cook. The problem with this, at least for some people, is it comes from oats. Oats have gluten in them. So if you have a sensitive tummy, or if you ever eat oatmeal and then you feel kind of bloated and not well, it could very well be that you're having a reaction to the oat and the gluten. But regular oatmeal that's cooked is significantly better than instant oatmeal. The problem is it takes time to cook it. Hey, another common breakfast product that people have is yogurt. But just like I said, not all yogurts are created equal. This is a very common kind of bland type of yogurt product, but you do need to read food labels on this. This only has 6 grams of protein, but it's got 18 grams of sugar, 12 of which are added sugars. So that's a processed food, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend this one. I would go to a different product. This is Fage, but it's a Greek yogurt. It's a cultured yogurt. It actually has prebiotics in it. And what prebiotics are, they are actually food for probiotics. What are probiotics? Probiotics are the gut flora, the healthful bacteria that's in your intestines that helps to digest food. And when you eat a lot of processed foods, you eat a lot of artificial sweeteners, high fructose corn syrup, those food products really destroy your gut health. And we need to fight back by eating prebiotic and probiotic kinds of foods. And a Greek yogurt is a cultured one of that. Now I realize that time, especially in the morning, and especially if you have children, I mean that can definitely mess up your morning's plans. Time can be difficult, but I really want you to make sure that you eat. And although, again, these are processed foods, I want to give you an example of maybe making a better and a more healthful choice. You have a sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit right here. It's 370 calories. About 70% of those calories come from fat, and about 40% of those calories come from saturated fat, which leads to heart disease. Although this is pretty yummy, it's a sausage, and a sausage is a processed food. There's really no quality nutritional amino acid value in this food. But again, it's quick and you can do it. Instead of this one, how about getting something a little bit better? Again, it's processed, but instead of using a wheat-based flour biscuit, they've actually got a different spinach and caramelized onion element to it. It's got a turkey sausage to it, which is better than beef. They use a white cheese instead of a yellow cheese. And you actually save 90 calories with this. You have a little bit more fiber, and you cut down on the fat by almost half and the saturated fat by almost 60%. So again, 2 processed foods, but one of them is probably a little bit better for you if you have to choose between the 2. Hey, well, I know I covered quite a bit of information in this particular newsletter, but I enjoyed it. And reading food labels is critically important to making good food choices. So again, check out that link below and learn all that you can about food labels. Compare and contrast when you're in the grocery store, and that will really help with your long-term health, especially limiting the likelihood of getting visceral body fat from eating all these processed foods. And in addition, I've got 2 other links to 2 really cool phone apps. One of them is called Yucca, and one of them is called Edo. And you can use your camera and really assess the quality of a particular food by using these 2 apps. So take a look at those. I think you'll find them very, very interesting to use. Well, thanks everybody for your time today, and I will see you next year in 2025. It's just right around the corner.